Wow, so FaZe Temperrr versus King Kenny ended, and it's pretty much what we expected in terms of being the highest skill fight on the card. And you can see both men like clearly prepared heavily for the fight. But wow, that ending of, in my opinion, just Temperrr getting robbed pretty badly. Like that is it's so unfortunate to see. As in these rounds, we're gonna be breaking them round by round. He just had so much more success than Kenny throughout and landed so many better shots, and it's just so unfortunate.
Yeah, and early on, Kenny looked focused and he looked like he was ready. But I mean, the beginning round, the first round, and Temper was having his way automatically with the left hook, especially was really finding his way. And I feel like that southpaw stance from Temper could have really been giving Kenny trouble, as his right hand was not always up, and he had kind of a low guard, while Temper had a high guard and was much more efficient, especially with those left shots. Really, even the lead hook was doing well and doing wonders for him pretty much. So. That first round, it was definitely good for Temper's confidence and gave him the momentum to continue putting it on Kenny.
Yeah, for sure. And then in the second round, you could pretty much see that Temper was finding great different openings, and you could pretty much tell that he had a higher fight IQ in that ring than Kenny, and he was finding calculated openings and finding good shots that were getting their way in there, and also was finding his different openings where he was able to tee off on Kenny and get a bunch of different shots, not even just one. He was finding a load of different shots, good different combos, and of course that left hook, very dangerous. And Kenny had some decent moments in that second round. Nothing, it really was Temper fully, but he had a good jab to the body, and was pretty much just getting his footings in. And I feel like he definitely got better as the rounds went on, but early on it was pretty much all Temper.
Yeah, and referring to how you said that he was getting better throughout the rounds, he was making those adjustments. Especially we saw that in the third round where he was coming on the inside and kind of making it more of a brawl, which is what was giving him more success in the fight in general. But I mean, that third round was still Temper just landing the cleaner shots. It was still Temper being on the back foot and being the smarter fighter and being the more calculated fighter. While Kenny had a little bit of moments where he was getting on the inside, but I mean, there were some moments as well for Temper where he was just teeing off and getting on the inside of Kenny's guard, which it was just crazy to see. You could see that both these guys have put in the work, like you said. These guys are definitely the most skilled fighters on the entire card, and you could see that they definitely put in the preparation. But that third round, I got to give it, I got to edge it to Temper, even though Kenny was starting to make those adjustments. I feel like it might have been a bit too late.
Yeah, and like you were saying, how Kenny was making those adjustments, especially in the fourth round. You could see that he was definitely maybe not fully switching up the game plan, but was trying to find different opportunities, and kind of switching it up a bit in terms of trying to find different shots that might be able to land, and kind of was getting more rough, and was kind of going into the clinch more, and pretty much just up close, and just a bit brawling compared to his previous rounds. But at that point, it kind of seemed like it was a bit too late, and it could have been maybe like 3-1 by then to Temper. But the opening rounds for Temper was just so massive and putting him at such a high advantage compared to Kenny, just for the fight, especially with it only being a 5 round fight. Not many rounds, so whoever gets rounds early is gonna have a huge advantage, and that's what Temper did.
Yeah, he really just stole the early rounds, and the rounds really passed Kenny by. And the fifth round was kind of more of the same, where Temper was really putting it on Kenny, but Kenny was still having that success on the inside. But I think overall, you got to give the round to Temper as well. If not, it's a very close round. But yeah, that fifth round was more of the same, and I think Temper really he did more, and he was able to just completely just outclass Kenny throughout the course of this fight. And it's not like Kenny was bad by any means. He was amazing as well, but he just didn't have the answers to what Temper brought. Obviously, there were a lot of unknowns coming into this fight with Temper, especially. He didn't show like any footage, while Kenny had been putting out footage, and there was a lot of hype from him. However, we didn't know much from Temper, and he really showed that he wasn't showing stuff selectively, because he had that skill, but unfortunately, just that decision, that was really sad to see. I mean,
Yeah.
it was FaZe Temper getting robbed pretty much. Well, a split decision, I'm pretty sure it was, and FaZe Temper definitely dominated the fight in my opinion, won 4 or 5 out of the 5 rounds. And unfortunately, he didn't get that win, which obviously the hometown bias of Kenny being in the UK and this entire event being in the UK, the entire event as a whole is kind of sketchy.
overall, I feel like Temper could definitely be a big player in this YouTube boxing scene, as he showed a lot of skill, and you could definitely see that he was, even though he hadn't fought before, you could definitely see he had a high ring IQ compared to the other guys that fought on the card, and I feel like he'll definitely have a future in the YouTube boxing scene. But as for Kenny, he got the win, even though it's as sketchy as it was, and I definitely see him fighting as well moving forward. However, I just wish didn't have to happen because of that decision.
Yeah, and I think that I mean for FaZe Temperrr, there are a couple of fights that he could have, maybe Slim. There are different. Even Alex Wasabi possibly could fight one of these guys, but obviously, this is just not it's not something you like to see, and especially at this level of boxing, you don't want to see these kind of decisions. I mean, we saw with Nissan Gibb get robbed against Taylor Holder when they made that a draw when it was pretty clear that Gibb won. I think this is a very similar situation where it was pretty clear that Temper won this fight, and that's completely being unbiased. I mean, I was rooting for Kenny actually going into this fight, and I'm over here saying that Temper clearly won. So I mean, it's just it's unfortunate to see. I don't think Temper deserved that at all, and it's very bad luck for the entire event as a whole.